Hello everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel. So today in case scenario, we are going to focus with another fishes company and their challenge and then how to resolve the problem. So straight away, we'll focus on today about secure file sharing for a growing professional services company. So let's go ahead and look at the customer and their scenario. So a company is called BlueWave Consulting Company. It's roughly around 80 employees company spread across New Zealand and then Australia. Now their problem is they are actually using local file servers and then email attachments, and then randomly they are sharing their certain files using Dropbox style method with public, maybe with customers. Now this might be a typical scenario you might be seeing with some customers. Now the challenge on that one is what they're facing right now is from legal point of view, there's a sensitive client document shared insecurely with the customers or with their internal employees when they're working outside. Now no central audit trail on the current setup. And then apart from that, it's difficult remote access to the environment and then access the files whenever employees require when they're on the mobile. When I say on the mobile, that means traveling. And then they also have a challenge of growing storage requirement. Now, trying to expand the existing environment is really going to be an expensive solution. So with that said, now let's look at their business requirement. So they want to make sure everything will be centralized into one file storage requirement, and then also to be securely the external sharing access, and everything to be identity focused. So you can see access control based on identity. And then finally, they have taken a decision. They heard about the cloud, so they want to see whether they can, completely move out from their on-prem infrastructure and then move on to the cloud. Now, as a consultant, you have been called out to do this job. So how you are going to approach that one is what we are going to discuss. Now, straight away, I can tell you we will focus on Azure as we always do in these case study scenarios. Now, the solution is Azure Storage. So now in the diagram that I have mentioned, we are going to create a storage account. And then after that, for each client, we will be creating a container. So in that container, we will be putting all those customers' files. So that is part of a segregation. Now, after that, all these accesses will be going to be based on Entra ID access. So we can actually control the access control part. And then also we will be having a proper audit trail as well. Now, apart from that, whenever you want to share this one with outside, we will be creating shared access signatures. We call it as SAS. So this will help us to, provide the external access with a given time bomb and then with a minimum requirement, like whether it's read only or read and write and then whatnot. We can control that one. And all of them going to be end of the day audited. So we are going to make sure those logs are also going to be saved. And apart from that, we will also look at it how we can help the customer to in case of a accidental deletion happen, how we can quickly recover that one by leveraging snapshot. Now that's been said, finally the overall security perspective, we are going to use HTTPS and then the encryption at rest. So that means when you create the storage account, any given time in Azure Storage, by default the data going to be in rest mode, going to be always encrypted. So we'll have a look at that one. Now, after we complete that deployment, we will come back and then recap and then also address, what other scenarios, why we didn't choose those things, and then what would be the other options you can find out. So without further ado, now we'll jump into the lab environment. Okay, team. So the first thing we are going to do now is create a storage account. So for that, I'm going to go ahead and select storage account. Either we can select it from, you can see in the top list, or we can go ahead and type storage and then select storage accounts. And then I don't have any storage account over here, so I'm going to create a one. Now for the resource group, I have already pre-created one with saying RG BlueWave Storage. So I'm going to use that one. Now for the storage account name, we can be anything, but I'm just going to come up with a name standard. So I'm going to say ST BlueWave and then 2026 because we are already near 2026. Okay, for the region, I'm going to keep it Australia East, and then for the preferred storage type, I'm going to go with Azure Blob Storage. And then for the performance, I'm going to keep it standard because we don't want to go with premium at this stage. But of course, if you can go ahead with that one. We'll discuss those things in a later video. And then for the redundancy, now since this company is going to completely move on to the cloud, so I would have to think about the redundancy. So I'm going to go with GRS, geographic redundancy. Otherwise, we could have gone with local. But I'll keep this one for the GRS for the time being. And then I'll go ahead with for the next one. Next one is very important for us. So we can see we have enabled, secure, require secure transfer for REST API operation is there. And then we have enabled storage account access keys been enabled. And then coming down, we have the additional features that I'm not going to go ahead and discuss further on this situation. So I'm just going to go ahead and for the networking, I need to cover the data protection. So if I go to the data protection, you can see the soft delete option is there. So I have the soft delete for the containers. So up to 7 days. So that will be really useful for us in this situation. So apart from that, for the encryption, you can see, as I mentioned earlier, now the encryption is one of the requirements. So when the data is at rest, Microsoft by default will be encrypting the data. So we have the option to select Microsoft management key. That is the default one. So the Microsoft will look after everything. Or we can bring our own keys. We call the customer managed keys. So I'm going to go ahead with Microsoft managed keys. In this situation, it's more than enough for us. And then enable support for customer managed keys. This one we don't mind because we already selected Microsoft managed keys. And then apart from that, we also can do double encryption by enable infrastructure encryption, which we are not going to do at this stage. And then for the tags in the production environment, I always highly recommend for you to use existing tags. Now we will go ahead and create the storage account. So this might take a few seconds. Now once that has been created, we will be focusing on actually creating the containers for each BlueWave's customers. Okay. Now container, if you are new to the Azure terminology, think about container as kind of like a folder, and the files inside that one as we call it blobs. So those are two terminology you can compare with your previous experience. So that's been said, I'll be returning back once we have this storage account has been created. Okay, welcome back. Now we have the storage account being created. So we'll go to the resources straight away. And then I'm going to go for the containers. And I'm going to create a first container as client A. So you can see it's private, no anonymous access for these containers by default, because we have make sure that it's not going to be like that. And then I'm going to select the next customer for the BlueWave client B, because we already have client A. So why we do this one? This is to make sure we separate the client by containers to reduce the accidental sharing. Okay. Now we are going to create internal access using Entra ID. Okay. So remember we talk about like the internal access users also want to have secure access. So for that one, I'm going to go ahead to the Entra ID. So under the groups, what I did in advance, I have created a security group. Okay. All I did I went to the new groups and then select a security group and then gave a name. On the name I have given as BlueWave Storage Contributors. So if I come back onto the all groups and type the word, here we have, I don't have type, it's already there, BlueWave Storage Contributors group is there. And then for the members, I have already add one member. So in this scenario, I'll try to go ahead and add another random member in my environment called Philip Oliver. So we should be having now two users in that group who will be requiring access to this particular storage. Okay. Now, what we are going to do is we will go ahead and assign access to the BlueWave storage contributors onto the storage account. Okay. So this is more towards the role-based access control. So I'm going to go back onto the storage account, select the storage account, and then go to the access control. and then I'm going to say add role assignment. So what I'm going to focus in this situation is I'm going to give them a storage blob data contributor. Okay, so if I type storage blob data, and then I should be able to find here the contributor. So this role is going to make sure it's going to allow read, write, and delete access to Azure Storage Blob container and its data. Okay, it's been pretty much targeted only. So now I'm going to make sure my existing group will be having access to this one. So if I type blue, I should be able to get that security group. I'm going to select that one, and then I'm going to assign the permissions. Okay, so this is going to make sure this is like a data plane role. So it's going to allow users to read, write blobs using Entra ID authentication. So we ticked one option. Now we will look at the test internal access for the okay. So for that, I'm already in the storage account. So what I'm going to go ahead is go to access to one of the containers, go to the one of the client, and then I'm going to go ahead and randomly upload a file for them. So I'm going to go ahead, let's say storage account failover, one of the video script that I have created, and then I'm going to upload the file. Okay, and then I will be able to access, because right now I already have the access. Okay, so we should be able to go ahead and even download this particular file. If I click that one, it will be able to be downloaded, but I'm not going to do that one right now. So I'll skip that one. Now, there's another way actually you can access these files, that is from the Storage Explorer. Now, Storage Explorer is a tool you can download from the Microsoft portal and then can be installed onto your machine, and then you can access the storage account without even going to the Azure portal. But that's something I'll leave it for you to explore that one. So for me, now I'm just going to go ahead focus on the next level about external sharing with SaaS. Okay, so for that, I'm still again going back onto the client. So for that one, first of all, I'm going to access a document. Sorry, upload a document. So I'm just going to go ahead and then browse files, and then I'm going to upload a file called client proposal. So let's say this is a file which I need to share with the customer. Okay, so in that case, I can actually click that file now. Go ahead and say generate a SaaS. Okay, shared access signature. In that situation, then I can go ahead and provide, let's say, permissions, whether you want to allow the other person to write to that one, or is it only for the reading, and then you can give a time how long they will be able to access this document once the the access permission is provided. So one important thing is always make sure the time zone is selected correctly. Since I'm based on this Auckland, I have selected that time zone. By default, it has been selected. And then I want to make sure this document would be able to be accessed, maybe let's say until 31st for some reason, let's say, because we need to give a little bit more time for them to read this document. And then further, you can even, if you really want, you can lock down this file access from particular public IP address as well. Now, the other things is you can see allowed protocols, both HTTPS and HTTP is there, but we are going to focus purely onto the HTTPS because we want to make sure it will be secured. And now, when we click generate SaaS token and URL, here we have the blob SaaS URL. Now, if I click that one team and then open up a, let's say, private browser. So let me bring the private browser, and then if I put that link, I should be able to read that document. Okay, but as I said, this document would be expiring after 31st of 2025. So this link expires automatically and only permits read. Okay, so this is much more safer than public sharing, what the BlueWave company has faced previously. Now that's been said, now let's talk about like improving the safety furthermore by disabling the storage account key access. Now this one, to do that one, I have to go back onto the storage account, and then I need to go on to the configurations. So if I go on to the configuration part, now if I can find it quickly here in the configurations, you can actually over here go and select the option called allow storage account key access and disable that one. Okay. Now be mindful when I do that one. If I look at the example, if I disable, it says allow storage access, account key access is disabled. So basically, if I do that one, even the SaaS based access we have given will be disabled, and it's purely going to be focused on the Entra ID perspective. So you have to be careful based on how you wanted to arrange who will be accessing, and based on whether it's only going to be Entra ID or not. Okay. Now this is going to be reducing the risk from leak keys. Then this is also going to force for like modern authentication. Now that's been said, now we are going to jump on to the next one about enabling the soft delete plus versioning. Now for that one, if I go back onto the storage account and then further scroll up, let me now go on to the backup options. So if I go on to the data protection, now let me find the data protection quickly. Here we have the data protection. So by default, soft delete, when you're creating the storage account, it's already there, team. So you saw that one. So because of that, you can see soft delete for blobs and then soft delete for containers already there. And then apart from that, we can enable the versioning for the blobs. Okay. Now, remember, blobs means kind of files. Okay. So right now, we can enable keep all versions, or we can say delete version after number of days versioning. Now, my recommendation is don't keep all versions like that, because it's going to create, occupy more storage. Delete version after number of days. So you can, based on the particular containers blobs, if there are a particular file is very important, criticals, then you can actually go on blobs wise and do this one as well. But if you do it overall here, it will be affecting for every blobs inside the storage account. So I can keep it like for 7 days and then save it. So now we have soft delete option as well as version control. So this is going to protect you from accidental deletions and then overrides, which is a common real world incident. Now, the next one is we want to make sure we will be having, kind of activities to be monitored. So for that, we can actually go for the logs. So we can go ahead and look at the logs in this situation. So in this situation, I'll be focusing on sending logs onto a log analytic workspace. Okay. So I can go ahead and say, select diagnostic settings. And here you can see logs is there. Now if I skip this one back, close this one. Here, it will be always going on to the log analytic workspace. And then further, I can click diagnostic settings. And then example, let's say it's blobs. I can enable that one. And then say add diagnostic settings. And then if I have a log analytic workspace, I can give a name first of all. Let's say ST BlueWave 2026 blobs logs. And then if I have a log analytic workspace team, then I could have actually select that one and then click save for that log analytic workspace. Send it to the log analytic. So why that really matters, because then we can keep those logs for a long time period whenever we want to do any kind of a troubleshooting. Okay. And then this is also going to be useful for audit trail for access and changes. Okay. So now, with that being said, I didn't went on actually covering everything because this is about a particular case scenario. Remember? So now coming back, what we did, we first of all created containers per client. So that is for the client separation. And then after that, we went on creating a security group and then assign permission. So that is RBAC via Entra ID group for the internal access. And then we talk about uploading, downloading files, and then we first verify it's going to work with our storage keys. And then after that, we upload another contract file, and then we talk about how we can securely share that one using shared access signature, or we call shares. So in that time, we selected it's HTTPS only, and then it's read only, and then it expires after certain time period. And then after that, we talk about how we enable the soft delete and then versioning. And then finally, also we look at it how we can configure sending the logs into a log analytic workspaces. Okay. So that's been said. Now, there are a couple of things like we can further discuss about why we didn't actually use Azure file shares instead of containers and then blobs. Now, I didn't use that file share because we wanted to focus on the customer's main requirement, like secure document sharing, and then the external access, identity-based permissions, and then we didn't want to have any dependency on the Windows file shares, and then we wanted the solution to be simply cloud-native solution because the customer is going to move away from the on-prem infrastructure. Okay, so that's been said. Azure file share is really good. It will be really good for if you going to come up with traditional file system access level, OSMB and NFS protocols are required, or maybe you are in a project where you are going to do lift and shift of an on-prem file server, then it will be ideal. Okay, and then apart from that, when you are going to do map network drives, it will be really useful. And then maybe if you really have some applications which require network paths to save the files, legacy application, then that will be really good scenarios for you to use like that. Now, that's being said, I really hope this video really gave you a good understanding how we can actually use Azure file storage onto that given business requirement. So being said that one, if you really like this video, please make sure you give a thumbs up for this one. And then if you really wanted to have more content like that, just subscribe to my channel and I'll be more than happy. And then one more important thing is, please give me some comments about what other areas that you really like to see case scenarios. So this is like a level 200 one. And then I'll keep an eye on the channel. Then I'll be sharing more videos about in various case scenarios. So more your inputs about what scenarios you like to see, that's really going to help me to improve and then help you all. Thank you very much.